Hello everyone, this is Mansa. Welcome to Impressive Angle. Some of the other time, we all get a doubt that how did China rise as a powerful economic nation in such a short span? Today, let us know the journey of China as an economically struggling nation to a competent superpower nation to the United States of America. To know the step by step economic progress, let us compare it with the USA, which is already a superpower nation. Today, China has a huge population of over 1.4 billion people. According to the Chinese government, nearly 16% of the population lives in China's 15 megacities, each with a population of over 10 million. There are only 47 such cities in the world. As of 2020, China is responsible for 18.6% of global gross domestic product. It exports 41% of the world's computers, 34% of all air conditioners, and a whopping 70% of the world's cell phones. China has become a global economic powerhouse. How did they pull it off? And why was the rest of the world so slow to notice China's rise to the top? The rise of China. During World War II, China and America are staunch allies in the battle against Japanese imperial aggression. And like America, China throws itself into mass production on an epic scale. But after fighting the Japanese, China is torn apart by a brutal civil war between the US backed nationalists led by Chiang Kai shek and the Communist Army and its leader Mao Zedong. In 1949, Mao sweeps to victory, establishing the People's Republic of China. In Mao's China, everyone is to share in the wealth, and that collective community will be represented by the state. Also, China is to be completely self reliant in terms of finance, food, and goods. No more stock exchanges and no more diplomatic or economic relations with the capital West. China and its 542 million people cut off from the rest of the world. To modernize its largely agriculture based mega nation, Mao encouraged millions of farmers to leave their farms and work in factories. And to make sure no one has a problem with that, he launched the Cultural Revolution, punishing dissenters by ordering them to re education camps. Many cities are close to chaos. At least a million died. Meanwhile, China suffered from a widespread famine, a corrupt infrastructure, and a bursted economy. It was largely ignored by the rest of the world. In 1960, China's economy worth $59 billion, a figure dwarfed by the US economy worth $543 billion. But in the early 1970s, America decided to win over Mao, taking advantage of the rift between him and his communist counterparts in the Soviet Union. Richard Nixon was the first American president ever to visit China. After 25 years of isolation, Mao seems prepared to re-establish ties with America. And Nixon hoped to encourage an American-style democracy in China. But when the supreme leader Mao died in 1976, his autocratic system did not die with him. It just took a whole new direction with the entry of Deng Xiaoping. When Deng took China's reins at the end of 1978, he made it clear that China will consider opening up to the West if they can make a little money out of it. So he visited America, sending a signal to the world that Communist China is now open for business. And they started a program of economic reform, creating 4 special economic zones or SEZs. These zones had different rules than the rest of the Communist China. Here, factories export goods to the West and importers can trade with capitalistic countries. The idea to establish these zones was to draw foreign investment and serve as mini economic engines for the rest of the country. And it worked spectacularly. One of the first special economic zones was the fishing village of Shenzhen, population 59,000. By 2016, its population went up to 12 million. Its GDP per capita increased astoundingly 24,569%. which explains why China over next 30 years designated more and more of these SEZs. SEZ means tax-free profits, low rents and endless cheap labor. In the early SEZs, factory managers took advantage of China's massive labor force to crank out huge quantities of low-cost exports and the productivity went sky high. Then they started exporting billions of dollars worth products each year. Anywhere else, this is called capitalism. In China, it's titled as socialism with Chinese characteristics. Between 1980 and 1990, China's economy almost doubled. So did America's, keeping it far ahead. After opening up to capitalism, young people in China were increasingly demanding more than just the right to pursue profits. In 1989, at Beijing's Tiananmen Square, students began protesting for democracy, free speech, and a free press. But on June 4th, the government sent a clear message that the economic freedom is one thing, but political freedom is something else. Tanks and troops were dispatched to the square and opened fire on demonstrators. Till date, China government never released an official death toll. But this event is internationally known as the Tiananmen Square Massacre. After that, in December 1990, China's leaders offered a carrot to those who were interested in making money by reopening the Shanghai Stock Exchange, sparking stock market fever. Now, memories of the civilians killed in Tiananmen Square and the freedoms they were seeking got faded as the workers' wages and the quality of their living climbed. After this, China wanted to join in World Trade Organization to solidify its status on the world stage. The rest of the world also wanted China to open up its self-controlled markets to more competition from outside. They said it's not fair for the Chinese government to block imports into China but floods other countries with its exports. China promised to work towards balancing its trade. And in November 1998, America agreed to support China's entry into the WTO. And it hoped that China government would lose its grip over its people once it opens business with the West. But this did not happen. By 1998, China's economy hit $1 trillion mark, but the America's economy was still way ahead, hitting $9 trillion. Then in 2008, when the economic crisis hit globally, more than 2.6 million people lost their jobs in the US. 1.8 million businesses shut down and 10 million homes were foreclosed in less than 2 years. This impacted on China too, as the exports to the US dried up. Many Chinese factories were shut down, including some larger ones. But in China, as state runs everything, the China's new leader, Hu Jintao, wasn't worried because they'll just use the state's deep pockets to make up for any losses. With no free press or political opposition to second-guess their policies, the China government swiftly authorized a $586 billion bailout. And the Chinese factories quickly pivoted from exports to making goods for domestic consumers. China also started quietly investing in far-flung developing nations in Africa and Asia. One of the most ambitious policies was called the Belt and Road Initiative, a vast series of infrastructure projects around the globe. These included a 12,000-kilometer railway stretching from Yiwu in coastal China all the way to London, a massive network of highways connecting eastern China to Pakistan deep water ports, and a 1,833-kilometer pipeline that can carry natural gas from Turkmenistan across Central Asia to the Chinese border. Around the world, China invested more than $1 trillion in infrastructure projects across dozens of countries. This latest strategy of China's newest leader, Xi Jinping, really made the West sit up and take notice. Is China taking over the world? Supporters of China's international investments say that these infrastructure projects will lift millions of people out of poverty and create jobs in poorer countries. Critics say it's a land grab, using checkbooks instead of swords. Either way, it is increasing China's overall wealth at an astronomical rate. By 2018, China's economy was closing in on America's. So, it's not a matter of if, but when China overtakes the US. The best guess is by 2025. China would become the world's number one economic superpower. Less than 50 years ago, the US saw China as a struggling third world country. Today, it's China that the rest of the world is playing catch up to. So, friends, this is about how Chinese strategies helped in making China to become a superpower. If you like my video, please like and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.